Hello? Am I here now? Am I here now? Am I here now? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello, hello, hello. I am testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh, good. All right. So, no stream for a while. That's okay. Dominic, what did you slice that in? I was just wondering about your what slicer layer skipped. If you can give me a heads up there. Yeah, weird, because the whole time it was streaming in the console, so it looked okay. And like I was told too at the start of the stream that YouTube actually didn't notify, so I'm not sure what went down. Anyway, layer shifting. There was they were talking about layer shifting there in the chat, and yeah, it can be mechanical, meaning like something caught, something snagged as it was printing. If it happens once, you're usually okay. Z-hop can actually be not your friend while you're layer skipping. It could be Z-hop. So on the older Creality controllers, so like it was the first version of the silent board and then the older ones, there was an issue where if you were like Z-hopping, it might actually collide with the print. So like there's a couple reasons that could be happening. Yeah, welcome to 3D Printing Church, where nothing works the first time for sure, but at least we get them out of the way early. So when we look at like layer skipping, if you're not watching the printer, it's kind of tough to tell if it's mechanical. I know for me on the SX4, I had a heating issue with the controller itself, so it was overheating, and then the layer shifts would happen because the stepper drivers weren't functioning properly. And then yeah, if the sharp points were curling up, you'd probably have a cooling issue with PETG. PETG likes as little cooling as possible, so you could try backing off the cooling actually, and see if that helps the curl. Now that comes with its own issues. Like if it's a small print, you need that layer to have almost cured, right, or cooled before it puts the next layer on it. So you have to play with that a little bit. But PETG is akin to sort of ABS, where like ABS, if you put a fan on it, you might have big issues. So you could in theory just turn the cooling off, especially if you're using the stock Ender hot end. So if you have like a Ender 3 or a CR10 from the original series with that little metal box of a hot end cover with the shroud, and I had the 4010 at the front and the blower on the side, the front fan actually provides almost enough cooling for most PETG just by itself with turning the cooling one off. There was I forget who did the video on that, but it was a few years back now, and you can see yourself if you want. You take a bowl of water, put it on the print bed, just move your printer head down to the water and just let the hot end fan come on, and you can see the air still cooling the print. And yeah, so that makes sense. So Stig says he's printing PETG at 150. Do you mean 250 C, Stig? 150 I don't think would work. Just because most printers fail safes would kick in. I think you mean 2. But and he has 25%. But yeah, the if you have like a custom fan ducting system or something that's adding more cooling, that could definitely cause that mechanical failure. Anytime it curls up, or like the bed has that cable latch or cable that goes over under to the controller, and it's going back and forth if that catches, yeah, you're gonna want to if it happens more than once or twice, you'll probably have a mechanical issue or a thermal issue. But if you haven't changed anything, it's more than likely it was a fluke mechanical. Okay, now that everybody's here, let me do this. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you to our Patreons on this list. You guys are important to this channel. You're important to us. You make this possible. Without you guys, we wouldn't have projects, websites, that kind of thing. If you want to join the fun, we have a 3D Make It Discord, and we do Patreon live streams, which is, I said, but I'll say it again, next week is what we're shooting for the Patreon live stream. Might be me again next week, so we'll all hang out together. So patreon.com/3dmakeit is how you join the fun there. And again, thank you for these guys up on the screen for being Patreons for quite a long time now, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, let's get back here. So let's see here. I'm just going to read the last comment. So Stig says, I use all metal hot end for Petchy since I print it's on the hot side of the scale. Absolutely. Petchy is something that, I mean, you can print with a PTFE lined all metal hot end, and what that means is the PTFE tube goes all the way down to the nozzle, and then like the difference with an all metal hot end is there's a heat neck between that nozzle, and then there's the heat break in the neck, and then it goes up, and then the Petchy or the PTFE tube, if you're still using not direct drive, is just attached right at the top of the heat sink, so there's no burning of that heat sink. Now, all metal hot ends, especially if you're using stainless steel or steel without like a coating, those can be particularly bad for layer shifting because the filament actually sticks a little bit to those stainless steel hot ends. So you need them for abrasive materials for sure, but there's also plated hot ends. So like the people over at Microsys make the plated ones, and then they don't stick as to that because it's just a copper plated, and then you have a better I put a copperhead heat break in. Yeah, so basically you have that heat break in there, and so it's akin to an all metal. Yeah. And that was the confusion for the longest time. People, like manufacturers, were just like, yeah, this is an all metal hot end for sure. And it's like, okay, the nozzle was all metal, the heater core cartridge was all metal, like everything was all metal except the PTFE tube. That's what we needed to get rid of. And yeah, at least we're there now. So I talked about it, but I'm going to do it again because nobody could hear me. It was sad. Recently I needed to re-up a project, and the project was I was printing some F-bombs for my wife, and they're just like a bonsai bill somebody made that says F-bomb on the side. I did not design it. I just print it. Now, inside the F-bomb, she likes to fill them with Fs, little Fs. And so I did make an F, and I made the F in TinkerCAD. And here's my TinkerCAD. My TinkerCAD had 30 projects in it. Until I logged into it to make these Fs recently. I just wanted to go download my same ones, and then this happened. So like I have like the cold blocks and like all this stuff and the circuits and this stuff. None of this is mine. This is all the default stuff. Your designs show up here. And as you can see, I have one, not a bunch. And I've had a bunch. Like I made all of my, simpler projects with numbers, or like if I needed a quick angle bracket or something, I used to just fire up TinkerCAD because it was fairly easy, but you can see it's gone. And so it kind of makes sense on one side, because I think TinkerCAD is moving towards more of the education space, right? Like when you look at kind of what the projects are, like you can do simulating and components for circuits, and so they're trying to bring like this basically a tinker space virtually into the classroom, right? And so, and you can see like there's all these buttons would allude to the fact that we're like moving towards education, but I still not sure. Like I sent a support message to them and said, hey, all my stuff's gone, what's going on? And I haven't heard back. You guys have known that both Greg and I have had, shall we say, issues sometimes with getting like at renewal time with Autodesk and our Fusion 360, or getting like the downloads to work, or even like security settings so we can actually run it. We've had some issues with just Fusion as well, and now TinkerCAD, and it's kind of disheartening. I don't know if you guys use Tinker at all, but I just wanted to see, because I couldn't find them at all. Like I've been everywhere in here. The only one that exists now is this cool robot one, and I can't get any of my other projects. I spent a few looking for it. Now I'm glad. So Stig says he has 74 projects, but the page design has changed. So I'm glad to hear that you still have your 74 projects. Yeah, right. Like I don't use this all the time. I use it some of the time. So, and the stuff that was in here, it's not like I already exported it and printed it, and I have like on my Thingiverse page. If you guys go to 3dmakeit.ca, I have my Thingiverse like link and stuff that has all my designs. So it's just, I wanted to know, and it could be because like it was like I'll say like every 2 months I log in when I actually need it. But I was just wondering, yeah, and it could be a glitch. Maybe it'll come back. Maybe their engineers are working on it. I'm just crossing my fingers. Maybe that's it. But yeah, so I brought it up. I just was interested to see if you guys had this issue. Now the other thing that happened, and I was going to show this for the next topic du jour. If you've been to Thingiverse recently, we now have the cookie bot challenge. Not challenge, but you'll see lots of websites doing this. This is a website thing now. Lots of them do it because we want control over what kind of cookies our browser saves. So like if I unselect all of them and just click necessary, look, you need mandatory cookies. So they make you do preferences and statistics and marketing, and I still can't select necessary. So when I click allow all, which I'm going to click full disclosure, it's going to allow all these cookies to not track but be enabled. And like even when I do show details, it just opens up another tab with the same thing. There's no details. So I'm going to click allow all. And you can see now we have Ultimaker, but the new logo with the merger. Their ads are getting through my ad blocker, which is great. But we're going to download Benchy here, which is back. I don't know if you guys noticed, but Benchy actually disappeared from Thingiverse for a couple weeks. Was it like probably last month when I noticed it was gone? So I had to go to like the GitHub to download Benchy, which was great. So we will download the file maybe. Hello file, there it goes. Oh, it went twice, whatever. That's fine. And so I have a Benchy, and I'm going to kind of smooth into the next topic, and I know you guys all have good input on this, so we're going to talk about extrusion and under extrusion and over extrusion, but mostly under extrusion. So I think I mentioned this last week, maybe, or not last week, the week before, but I switched my CR10 and my bigger printers to a 0.6. Hey Greg. 0.6 nozzle, and I had some issues, and I'm going to show you what those issues are, and then we'll move into how you can fix them the three ways. Greg, I didn't text you because I know stuff. If you want to Skype, I can turn it on. Just text and let me know. Okay, so let's do this. That's as descriptive as I'm going to be. So, I printed this benchy. Looks pretty good, right? Except, I mean, you can see by the roof, and there's a little stringing, whatever. Stringing is stringing. I can fix that with a quick setting. Oh, so I'm the only one that they turfed their designs. Jeez, figures. Here's the other side, and you can see there's a gap, a noticeable gap in that print. So where the layer lines were happening, there's a gap, and that's indicative of under extrusion. Like that's probably like a major case of under extrusion, but it's under extrusion. So a couple things. I made that model bigger, which makes the layers change a little bit on benchy. And if a model had a defect, so like a bad facet or inverted face or a missing face, and you make it bigger, that might exacerbate the issue. But that's not the case here. So we do know that benchy's a little bit broken, and we talked about that before. There is a line that most people will get in benchy depending on the slicer, and that's the name of the game right there, I guess, right? It just does it, and they haven't fixed it. You can bring benchy into Prusa slicer, which we're going to do in a second, and Kira, and Prusa slicer will be like, hey, this looks broken, and you're like, yep, sure, fix it, and then it fixes it. And we talked about that in a video too. So extrusion. So like on this example, you can see gaps, so we know we have to overcome under extrusion. So let's start here, and then we'll move to the other one. So we have a Prusa slicer, and then let's get a benchy in the Prusa slicer. So it's not magic. Here's benchy, here's Prusa slicer, bam. All right, and let's bring this size up a little bit. So I don't know, I think I printed it about that big. That looks good. Okay, so here's benchy, and we can see here's the damage, right? So if I hover over my little explanation point, I get like this 3D benchy is damaged. It auto repaired 1104, 552 degenerated faces, and 552 facets were removed. So basically it unstitched it, stitched it. I clicked that little explanation point again because there still is some issues, and so NetFlap's going to chug away at it and then try to fix the last bit of the issues. So, and now it says it's completely repaired. Doing that's a first step to overcome some of the like under extrudy looking things sometimes. So always look at the model. Prusa slicer has it built in. We went through with how you can use 3D Builder in Windows. If you bring a model into 3D Builder that's damaged, a little window pops up and says, hey, I'm damaged. Click here to continue. So I mean, if you're seeing errors in your model, you should fix them. Now, do you have to fix them? Dominic asks. You don't have to. In fact, if I didn't fix benchy, probably the worst that would happen in this case is that little line. But I bring my models into Prusa slicer, and I fix them. It's built into Prusa slicer, and so like it's easy to do. It's just a little time, and I know how we get with time, and we want to get things done and move on, and so sometimes clicking that's like, but now I'm gonna have to sit and wait. But we should be repairing models that are damaged before printing. It can cause some weird movements. In fact, it could be cause for layer shifting sometimes, because that tool path might get glitched out. I know, get a new model, simple. The thing is this benchy though, no matter where you download it from, like in this example, is broken. Like it was the file that was exported, and they just never re-exported. Now, like, are other things broken, like TinkerCAD and other benchmark prints? No. Like the castle is fine, TinkerCAD's fine. Even my version of the Benchy with Bernie sitting on the back is fine because I repaired it before I made it. Let me look. I'm just catching up on chat. Now, if you're in Kira, sorry, I was just catching up and I'm reading cross-eyed. So that's one thing. Make sure that the model is happy and healthy. Now in Kira, when you bring a model in, so like we saw that in Prusa Slicer, it popped right up on the side there. It said, hey, I have an issue. I've tried to auto repair the issue. That's the first thing it told us is I tried to auto repair the issue. There was like 1100 errors. I did it. But that explanation point still existed, which means it needed to launch that NetFab engine and get some, outside help. So then it sends it to NetFab, and then NetFab does its thing, and away you go. So when we look at Kira, so here's our Kira. Same thing. Boom, Benchy into Kira. Kira meet Benchy. First off, we can notice that there's no errors. Okay. Let's make it a little bigger. I didn't have a pop-up. There's nothing here that says, hey, this model is damaged. It needs help. Oh, no. Hey, warning. No, none of that. Now, that being said, it's not a default. It's not a default extension in Kira, but you can go to the marketplace and you can grab mesh tools. And mesh tools, in theory, can do most what the Prusa Slicer repair can. And we did a full video on this one as well. So I'm going to install this mesh tools guy, maybe. Hello? Did you install? So this is Kira 5.2.2. Streamline your workflow, field of view. It says it's installed, which is good. I like when things are installed, but I don't see it in my... I don't see it in my list. Anyway, field of view, this add-on by field of view, it'll pop up in the bottom here, and it'll say, hey, your model's damaged, try to repair me. So very similar. But the model that I had, so the example Benchy here that I have, let's tilt it, like that's not repair issue, right? That's actually under extrusion. And the reason it's under extrusion is because I switched nozzles and I didn't up my flow. So there's a couple ways to manage your flow and your extrusion settings. And one is calibrating your E-steps, right? And so E-steps calibration is pretty easy. Yeah, you do, but it was already installed, so I think there's a glitch. Here, let's reload it. I'm going to reload it, and we'll see. Whoops, that was wrong, Kira. 5.1, my bad. Let's just see if it's in here. Yeah, see, still not in my menus, even in this old one. So let's try a new one more time. Anyway, so we can calibrate our E-steps, and that's really a first step. If you set up a new hot end or a nozzle size change, you should calibrate your E-steps, and I did. Now, there's a couple ways to do it, because we know E-steps are just, when you look at your E-steps value in your firmware, we know that that's just a function of percentages, right? So you measure about 100 millimeters of filament before the extruder. You tell your extruder to extrude 100. If there's anything left above like your mark, you know for a fact, or so I guess it would be below, you know for a fact that you didn't extrude 100. So you measure that and then do the percentage difference and then add that amount back to your E-steps. So like if you had, hey, extrude 100 E, or please extrude 100 millimeters, and you extruded 80, right? That's 20% different. So then you would add the 20% to your old E-step value in your firmware. And that you know, we've gone through that on the channel too. There's videos and the way back on that. So let's see here. This is the reloaded version. No. Let's see if it's hiding. I'm going to see if it's hiding. No. No. Let's see if we can right click it. No. Yeah, so it's not loading those apps right, and I'm not sure why. I'll have to look at that. So there's a few ways where you can do this in your slicer if you've set your E-steps. So always start with the E-steps, and if you're not sure how your E-steps work or how to like set them, and my statement about adding the percentage back seems like magic, and you don't want to go back and watch the video. You can there's a fella called Teaching Tech that made a nice web page that you can go and go to, and basically you can search as Teachy Tech 3D calibration. I'll post this in the description of this video for us too, but you can basically go here. I'll pop it in chat too because I've got the power. But you can go here and it does exactly what I said to do, except he marks it at 120 so that if you go over 100, you still have some left, which is a good idea. And then you can put your current E-step value in, and then you measure the difference, and there he's doing it. If you have exactly 20 left from 120, you did it. If it's different, you have to put the value in here. And you could say like, oh yeah, I had an extra 43 millimeters. And then you calculate, and then it'll say, well, then you need to set your E-steps to 120, right? Which is very similar to the example that we talked about. It's that 80%. So then you set that, then you save it, and your E-step should be corrected. So I know I glossed over the E-steps thing. I think there's enough information here, and in past videos that we kind of have the E-step thing going. The other place you can address the issue, so if you've calibrated your E-steps, and Greg and I actually, with the Sprite extruder, it's interesting because we both have different E-steps from, I think Greg's is close to the manual and mine is way above the manual. So the other place you can come to fix under extrusion, let's use that in air quotes, fix. If you've done your E-steps and you're still seeing weirdness on the model, you might have a filament issue. Maybe you're not printing hot enough. Maybe you're printing like a flexible. That could be a thing. So always check your filament like settings. So if you know that you've printed like a filament at 195 before for this PLA, and then you're printing and all of a sudden it's under extruding, maybe check to see you're not at 185 in printing, that kind of thing, because that can, under temperature, can cause under extrusion. Now you can come into your model as well. So both Kira and Prusi Slicer here will give you previews, and so now I can preview my benchy, right? I can zoom in, and I know the issue is on the hull. So like my issue is like right here on, I don't know which side honestly, but bam, look at that. Okay, so now I'm looking at my model and I go, those lines look familiar. And they do, right? Because that's where my under extrusion is. So the under extrusion, you can actually confirm this is happening where the layer actually changes and shifts up, and so I'm under extruding on those changes, which means one, my retraction settings are too high. So I'm pulling too much filament out. And so again, like you can come into the settings here, and I think speed, no, travel. It's traveling, Kira. Travel. You enable retraction, and if you're getting too many gaps, like mine had like a hole all the way down the side, then you can come in here and you can change the retraction distance, right? So for an all metal and a direct drive extruder, you can go pretty low. Like you might be 0.1, 0.2. If you look at the actual direct drive stuff from like Micro Swiss and E3D, they say you're going to be between 0.2 and 1.2. And actually, like most of my printers have found that happy medium. So the Sprite is way down there at like 0.2, and so is my Micro Swiss hot end. And then the other one that I ordered, like just, it was parts and a kit, and it was a new metal plate. That one, it's an all metal hot end, but I do 0.8. And so this looks okay. But again, if you had gaps here, the first thing to test, and only change one thing at a time now, because we're changing slicer settings. So you don't want to change like 3 and then it works and now you're like, which one was it? Right? You don't want that. So come in here, we can up. So like if we have holes, we turn this retraction distance down, right? And less retraction distance can bring problems like stringing. So we're solving one problem right now. And so if we get stringing, that's something we can come to again, but you could come in here and turn it fairly low. So like, let's say we're printing and our retraction distance on a normal ender was 4.5 millimeters here. And we had those gaps. We could change it to 2 and see if the gaps go away. If they do, we know that we can tune our retraction better. And like when we're testing this stuff, we're probably only going to print like the first 10 layers, just enough to see if it's working. And then we know if we change it and it works, great, we fixed it. Now the other thing we can do, and this is where the slicer, how do you say it? This is where it can get difficult because there's different tuning in the software, right? On our printer, E-steps are easy. I can tune the machine quite quickly, right? I have options. That extruder's not extruding. Okay, is it E-steps? I just calibrate them, they look okay. Is my extruder broken? Do I have a plastic extruder and did the little arm, the idling arm, did it break? I get no pressure. And then that can cause under extrusion, right? So there's like mechanical things, and generally it's those two. You could have a clogged hot end, that could cause it too, right? So there's like, you just have to check, and we've said it before, the flow of the filament path on your machine. If everything is flowing on that, then you move to the slicer settings. But ideally what happens, and the next part I'm going to show you, this is why I say it with a grain of salt. If you're tweaking this setting in the slicer, probably your E-steps are wrong. So the retraction one, that could definitely be a thing. But if we go into material here, we can see that there's some options like printing, blah, 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 blah. Who cares, right? Flow. You can see that my flow in Kira is set to 105. Now this is not uncommon. And in fact, I do believe it's the default Kira setting. And Prusa Slicer used to be above 1 as well. I'll show you Prusa Slicer in a second here too. But so this is telling the slicer now that I need to overcorrect when I'm stepping the extruder at 105%. So instead of just saying move 1, I gotta tell it, move 1.5, and then it'll or 1.05, sorry, and then it'll do it. And so by this way, you're actually artificially increasing those E-step values and increasing the flow of filament. Okay, so that's another way that you can come and you can fix under extrusion. Again, when you get to this process, always start with the filament path and then move and then move and then the retraction, and then as a last test, again air quotes, test, go to your flow. Now the flow you can tweak it up and down and just see how if you're going up, then you need more. I would look back at the E-steps just to make sure that you're calculating them right. As a note, it's important to not drive your extruder as fast as it can go when you're calculating E-steps, right? So you want to stay below the 30 millimeters a second, almost maybe 40, just so that you get smooth extrusion while you're actually testing that. So that's Kira. That's flow. If you notice that you're getting under extrusion, you can increase the flow. Over extrusion, you decrease the flow. Again, if you're doing more than 5 either way. So if 100 is normal and then I go 105 to correct under extrusion, that's, generally okay. Or if I go 95 to correct over extrusion, that's considered okay. But if you have to go outside those limits, again, go back to your E steps. So just shrink this guy, and here's a benchy, the same benchy, but it's been repaired. So let's slice this, and we'll go into the preview. Oh yeah, I forget it does it automatically. And the first thing is you can see that like this one's a little different. Like I don't see any of the actual seams, so I can come up here and go, okay, is there anything I can change? So I have feature type, right? And then it tells you what it's going to be: external, internal, solid, bridge, support, custom, perimeter. So that's not in there. So you have to like, I don't know if I can if they took it out or not. It might be gone. Just one sec. Let's see what we can do. Boop. So retractions will do it. And seams. So yeah, we just have to actually, let's take retraction. So retractions or seams will do it. And detraction is actually something nobody ever says everywhere. Yeah, teaching text is great, but it is just a calculator. I'll throw that out there. It's just a calculator, so you can calculate your percentage and do it. But I enjoy it too, right? Because it's just easy. You're typing it all into a form, and he's a great guy, so I don't mind supporting his stuff. So you can see this one's handling the seams a little bit differently. That's because of the seam alignment, right? So if I go into my settings and I were to search for seam, and I can go to advanced seam position, which is in the layers, and then it's layers and perimeters under the print settings, and then it's down here. So I've said nearest, which means it's not going to align them, right? If I picked aligned, it would be closest to the Kira one we saw with the big gap. So for fairness, let's pick aligned for now. And then if I go back to my platter and slice it, and you can see like on this one, if I were to print it, my hole would probably be here if I was having extrusion issues, like my example there. And so same thing in filament settings, and then I believe it's extrusion multiplier. This one is set to 1, which is 100% in Kira. And then I could go up like 0.5 or down if I was over extruding. So under extruding, I go up again. So like that. Over, I go down. If it's any more than that, you should probably look at your E steps. I think this one actually, if I'm correct, if you hover, this factor changes the amount of flow proportionally. You may need to tweak this value. If you tweak it outside, and they're even more strict than like, so it's like 0.9 and 1.1. So they give you an extra 0.5 than I even did. Hey Gary, maybe try refreshing again, Dominic. I know, like right now I'm sending and the stream says healthy, so it's not like it was when we crashed in the last time. So so that's, that's in both slicers. You can exchange the extrusion multiplier. You can change the retraction distance in the extruder settings in Prusa Slicer. So you can see here that I have a 0.8 on my CR10.6 nozzle. And then it's important to look at your detraction speed too. So that's the speed that the filament actually like loads back into the hot end. So like if you're seeing little blobs, sometimes that speed could be at fault. So then making it a little bit slower would ease the filament back in. Unfortunately, printers, 3D printers, still have to follow the laws of physics, and they still have to, like, gravity counts. So when you have molten plastic, it's going down, right? So if you push that plastic too fast, it might actually force it out and that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna push this button, pushing the button. Here it is. Thanks again to all our Patreons. You guys are amazing. If you wanted to follow us on Patreon, it's patreon.com/3dmakeit. We have cool things like the Patreon live stream next week and the Discord chat. which I have to fix because it's being deprecated. So you might actually all lose connection for like a day while I roll over the API stuff. I got the email, so again, it should be fine. Now, I will show off something one of our Patreons sent in. It looks pretty cool, actually, so it is worth showing. So our good friend in Patreon, Dominic, sent this to the Discord channel, and I'm going to print it. I think it's a great idea. So it is a strong light repositional laptop stand. It looks great. I love it. I've printed a few of these over the years. I posted the link in the chat there. And Dominic has already posted the link in Discord, so if you're in the Discord, you have it. But yeah, like, it's cool. It has multifunction legs, so like you can see how the legs will let you actually fan out more or less to get more height, right? And then it's just simple kickstands that hold the laptop at the bottom of the lip. And before you all say, well, that's pretty flimsy looking, just remember we hold our phones that are more than laptops generally up with less support. Like, this actually looks pretty good, and if you had two, it would hold it great. And it's simple. I love the fact that it has those slots in the back so that you can control the tilt. I'm not sure if I would go, full vertical, but you can see here, this would be way better if you were working from your laptop, like at home, and more using a keyboard in front of it, because it brings that monitor up to eye level, and then you have good ergonomics while you're typing. But yeah, I love it. I'm going to print it, and then we can look at it next week. Again, neither Dominic nor I made this model. It was made by Bart NIJS. Now, let's just look at the bottom. So always look at the license attributes. So it is licensed under the Creative Commons, and it looks like it's share and CC. So it looks like it's okay. If you're not sure what those little icons mean, you can click on the thing, and then scroll down a little bit, and then see. So you must give the credit to the person, right? So you'd have to attribute him if you were to use it, and indicate. So if I were to remix this, then I'd have to say, this guy made it. I'm remixing it. These are the changes I made. And yeah, that's the only one. So he basically, it's like he doesn't mind you using it. You just have to tell him you're going to use it. So perfect. That's one thing that kind of gets me going. Like, if you look at some models, like this guy here, as an example, I think we've probably printed the flexible octopus before. Can you tell me which one's the original? Right? Can you tell me? Yeah, that way Zoom people aren't looking up your nose. Although that's kind of fun for like, if you think about it, right? Like, it doesn't affect you, but it's hilarious for them because it makes it uncomfortable. So one of these two is probably the original. I'm going to go with this one's the original because it has more hearts. Let's see. So this one was made. Does it say when they were made? I don't remember on Thingiverse now. We can look at the files. So this was 05/28/2022. Actually, so that one's pretty new. Whoa. What's about this one? Thing files. Yeah, see, so it's hard to tell which one's which and which one's like new. So this one was actually out before the other one because it had 2022 on the date. One thing that drives me nuts is you get like this, right? And you got this octopus thing, and in theory, I don't see like any attribution. So did this guy make the original? You know what I'm saying? And it looks like he's only made one model and popped the head on it. So there's no kind of clue where it is. And then again, The Creative Commons license for it is these two: Attribution International CC by 4. So you're allowed to share it. You can adapt it. The license revokes the freedoms as long as you follow these terms, right? Does anybody see the words sell it? No, right? You must give the credit. If you change, you have to indicate it's changed, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure, and I'm not sure, like, but it almost looks like a remix from the original ones. So this one, it doesn't say sell it or not. So it's kind of in the gray because, again, like, I'm pretty sure, like, when you look at those octopus legs, it's the same as these octopus legs, which are the same as the original. So what I guess what I'm going at is it's kind of funny how the CC attributes inside of Thingiverse all say, like, oh, you have to make sure that you credit me and show that you're remixing this, which you should. And like Gary says, they didn't give credit where credit is due, right? So if you make something and you change something and then you're saying, hey, you have to make sure that people know that I made this thing, but you actually took it from something else that you didn't make. I mean, it's a slippery slope out there. And then you got to also watch, and I said it before, but like the swap and buys, man, those things are, people will print stock of 3D prints and sell them. And those prints are not to be sold. So, like, it's the never-ending discussion. What are you buying when you approach somebody with a 3D printer, right? But are you buying their time, or are you buying the actual model and you don't care about their time? You just wanted the Mickey Mouse. One of those things is okay, one is not. Simplified. I keep getting emails. It's the last point in the stream, and then I'm going to push the button. But I am getting lots of emails from Simplified that 5.1, their next version of 5 is out, fixing some of the bugs and stuff. Is Simplified something you guys want to see? Question mark. If you want to see it, thumbs up in the chat, I guess, or let me know in the Discord. If you want to see the new version of Simplified teared down by none other than myself and Greg, because I love tearing things apart, that. So yeah, let me know. You have about 30 seconds to answer in the chat, or let me know in the Discord. Again, next week we'll be hanging out with the Patreon chat, so we'll hit the button. So again, thank you to all the Patreons. All of you guys are free to come and come to the chat if you want to come to the chat and join the live stream. We use like restreams where you just kind of jump in. We might try Discord next week, get fancy on it. But if you want to join that fun, you got to join Patreon. That's patreon.com/3dmakeit. And then all of our information, like all of our socials and everything else, can be found on our website. So that's 3dmakeit.ca. And then remember this. Oh, it's off screen. Who made this? It's supposed to say subscribe, and it's supposed to be in the middle, and it was amazing. Okay, pretend the subscribe's in the middle, y'all. So thank you for coming. It's been fun. I'm sorry that there was that the hiccup at the beginning. I apologize, but I'll see you all next week for the Patreon live stream. Thanks for hanging out. And again, if you need any help, 3dmakeit.ca or the Discord. Have a good one.